What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So if you haven't been following along, what I've been doing in the last couple videos has been making a series of videos of how I practice. I'm a working guy. I cannot go days before the tournament. You know, if the tournament's Saturday, I can't go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I gotta work. So I have to practice weeks in advance, which could be really bad. I mean, as much as practice can help you, it can actually hurt you as well, because fish change. So what I've been doing is really trying to show how I like to practice, scout, pre-fish, you know, from one week to the next, and follow those fish as they move. If you haven't been watching, I will leave a link to all my practice videos in the description below. But if you don't want to check those out and you just want a short recap, so 2 weeks ago, I come down to the lake for a scouting trip, and I went to the upper end of the lake, the side of the lake I like to fish. I was able to get on a couple patterns. One was fishing a jig on bluff walls inside creeks. Another was fishing in the backs of creeks, flipping, as well as I was up on some flats way up the river, and was able to catch them super shallow flipping. When I came back the week after, which would have been a week before this tournament, I basically tried to duplicate that pattern as far as the bluff walls and creeks. And I didn't catch any fish doing that, but I really got on them on a buzzbait in the back of creeks. And then I switched over to a spook and caught one really good one. And then I kind of sucked the rest of the day, really didn't figure out anything else. I stayed off of those flats up the river. So came back 2 days before the tournament to, like my final practice, spend some time out on the lake. And I really tried to figure out something else up that river. Now, I did check those flats up the river. I shook off a few fish, caught a few fish. That was something definitely going on, as well as, I think there's a jig bite starting. But after talking to a couple of my buddies that are also fishing a tournament, it sounds like a lot of guys have figured out the fish. Here in the tackle shed, getting ready for tomorrow's tournament, I figured I'd just go over my game plan real quick with you guys, which is I'm going to start in the back of some pockets in James Creek, whether it's H or Broomball Bay. I really want to catch them on a buzz bait, but I also caught some fish in practice on a spook. So I'm going to keep those two players honest. I found some fish up the river in some flats. Problem is, I think other guys have found those same fish. But let's just get into the 6 rods I plan on using tomorrow. First off will be my buzz bait. This is a 610 heavy rod and a homemade buzz bait I throw. I'm going to be throwing that first thing in the morning, as well as so this is my spook. I'll be throwing this Striking Sexy Dog, the 3-hook version. Throwing this on a cranking rod. This is a 7.2 cranking rod, 14-pound mono. And then another setup I'm going to be throwing, mostly because I am a pop R type guy. I always have one on the deck of the boat in the summertime. This is a 610 crankbait rod with a 14-pound monofilament line. Haven't really caught much the last couple weeks on a pop R, but that's something that's always on the deck of the boat. And then when I go up in that river, the 2 baits I'm going to be throwing, one is a Striking Structure Bug on a 1/4 ounce. This is a 7.3 heavy flipping rod. I'll be pitching that around some isolated wood up on flats. And I said that I kind of expect there to be some company on those spots. So another bait that I'm going to have tied on, in case there is a lot of boats up there and I have to fish behind people. This is what I call my power Nico rig. It's just a Cinco rig, Nico style, on a 17-pound test. I actually throw it on a 7.6 bait casting rod. Just something I can really set the hook hard and get those fish out. I'm not much for a spinning rod. And then one other rod that's going to be on the deck of the boat is a 3/4 ounce green pumpkin jig. Anytime I'm on Raystown, my jig is going to be on the deck. But that's the starting lineup. That's the game plan. Let's see if we can execute. So we got a game plan. We're going out to the lake. I do want to apologize. I completely dropped the ball on filming this tournament. Set up the GoPro, but I never turned it on. Went out fishing. I started in H. Anybody that's been watching and saw where I caught my fish in practice knows I caught them in the back of Broomball Bay. I decided to start in the back of H, mostly because I was trying to duplicate the pattern I found the weekend before with that buzzbait in the back of pockets. I don't try to duplicate history. I think a lot of guys that go out and practice go right back to where they caught the fish, make the same cast with the same baits, and try to duplicate the results, and that never works, or at least very seldom. I try to duplicate the pattern, so I really didn't want to fish on top of myself. I wanted to go into the back of H because it sets up a lot like Broomball Bay, and it was a dead sea. Left there, and then I went into Broomball, into the area where I practiced last week and caught some on a buzzbait. And the first spot I went to, I picked up a popper and caught a pretty good keeper, and then I went around the corner and caught another one. Well, I got 2 in the boat. I got 2 in the live well on a popper. Wasn't recording, I was in tournament mode. Sorry about that, guys. Right after that, I ended up finding another fish on a bed. It was just a little one. I never really did set up on it. It was kind of acting funny, and there was some branches overhanging. So I really couldn't get a good lineup on him, and it wasn't big enough to really mess with. That was this fish right here that I'm messing with a little bit. Decided not even to waste any time on them, and then I really tried to duplicate my pattern, the same pattern I found last week with that buzzbait, that spook up shallow, flipped a little bit, and my water really cleared up, and then I realized that it started dropping. So after fishing some new water, some of the water where I caught some fish, I was going to make the decision that it's time to pull the plug on this pattern and run up that river before it gets any later, before them fish up there get beat up. I have 2 fish in a live well, and I shut the camera off because I'm thinking I'm going to be making a long idle out of this creek and making a pretty far run up that river. Decided to, check one other little spot just because I was already in there. There was some wood out in front of it, and then some deeper grass and a dock back there. I figured I might be able to pick up one. Got back there, didn't catch anything. Picked up the trolling motor, started idling out of there, and seems like the late spawners on Raystown really like stumps. So I went over there to fish those stumps, didn't catch anything. I threw a popper over the top, threw a Senko, flipped them, even threw a spook over the top, nothing. Come to one lay down, I picked up my jig, made a flip, and caught a really nice fish out of it. That gave me number 3 and really boosted my confidence. Then I realized I wasn't recording for that one either. I do apologize, guys. I had 3 fish in live well. I didn't get any of them on video. That's just a bad mistake for me. I was in tournament mode. And, I do apologize, but I get the rest of the catches on video for you. So let's get into them right now. Figure we're here. What's pulling out? What's it going to hurt to pull out another fucking rubber? So after catching that jig fish, I decided to try a Carolina rig. Yes, me throwing a deep water bait out here on this one point that I have a lot of history on. It's been a long time since I caught a fish off this point, but I decided to try it. Probably break my line on this rod. I haven't changed this line all year. There's one.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Look at that owl wife you spit out. So what a great decision just to stick it out in my area just a little bit longer. After catching number 3 and number 4 on that jig and then on that Carolina rig, really settled me down. I figured out that the fish are no longer in the backs of the pockets and that they slid to the first available piece of cover, whether it's a rocky point or a piece of wood. So starting to put some things together. I'm glad I didn't panic and just run up to my plan B spot, which is up in that river. I decided to keep going with my pattern in this area, see what else happens. It comes August and September when I really, really struggle. There's one.
Yeah.
No.
No? There's one.
Yeah, maybe. Stuff in my smell. And just like that, I got my limit, got a few calls I have to make. Going up the same bank, I'm coming up to a little channel swing where I'm preparing to fish a jig on a little rocky point, but I see a stump and I decide to pick up my Nico rig Senko and throw it on that stump. Sometimes these late spawners like to spawn on stumps, so I'm kind of thinking maybe there's a bed I can't see on this stump. That's why I pick up this bait.
She's an epidemiologist, but that's who taught me that. looks like a good one.
Might help.
On that.
Oh, heck, fight.
Mikey rig.
Nico.
Nico rig.
Power Nico. Who's on that stump? Oh, he'll help.
Oh, definitely. He'll call out that little one.
So during my scouting day, I actually got on a pattern of catching fish inside creeks on channel swing bluff walls with a jig. That didn't pan out in my pre-fishing day. I actually fished this exact spot with a jig and did not get a bite. But now that the fish are sliding out of these pockets, I decided it's a pretty good bet to try it right here. 2 weeks ago, I smashed them on it. Well, I shouldn't say I smashed them, but I fished 4 spots just like this, bluff walls in creeks, and got fish on every one of them, and they were good ones. That's a decent one.
That's a really good one.
Man, it just got heavy. I felt nothing.
Yep.
Well, after catching that good one on a jig inside that pocket, my decision making started to take a turn. I come out to a couple main lake spots I have, trying to catch a great big one. My co-angler was able to catch a good one, and then I'm able to set the hook on one fish. But honestly, my decision making started to take a turn. I started, having a lot of questions on what to do, where to go, because I haven't been catching any big fish in practice. And I started thinking about going up that river, but just knowing that there will be a ton of boats up there, and knowing that my co-angler would be at a huge disadvantage if I went up there. And my team partner also found those fish up in the river, and we both kind of said that we would go up there if we needed them. And I knew he was doing pretty good in the points, so I really didn't want to go up there and step on his toes. So at this point, I decided I am not going up there. Unfortunately, I started making bonehead decisions and started fishing some really dumb places for the rest of the day.
There's one. Good shit, buddy.
Skinny, wasn't it? So this would be the last fish I catch. I go the next 3 hours without a bite. Made terrible decisions, fished some bonehead places. Just really could not get comfortable for the rest of the day on what to do or where to go. Just kind of ran some history where I caught big fish in the past. And at the end of the day, I wasted like the last hour because I really wanted to fish a Carolina rig spot. After catching that Carolina rig fish early in the morning, I wanted to check a spot in H, but I didn't want to wait until right at the end of the day because I know how people will fish around the boat launch, for the last half hour. So I wanted to be there before an hour left to go. And the problem was it only takes like 10 minutes to fish the spot. So after I was done fishing, I really didn't have anywhere to go. And I wish I would have just idled out of there and went out on the main lake or went somewhere productive and fished. But I literally just wasted the last hour all the way back in H where I started in the morning where I didn't catch any fish. I went back there at the end of the day just to basically waste time. And it was just a terrible decision. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have just went up that river and checked some of the fish I found because you just never know where everybody's going to be. Maybe I go up there and there's nobody there. I'm confident that wasn't the case, but I wish, hindsight, I would have went up there. So I ended up finishing in 6th place out of 58 boats. It was the last check. It was a pretty good check. I'm pretty happy with it. I had a little over 11.5 pound. It took 17 pound to win. But after that, it was, the weights were actually pretty bad. There was a lot of zeros, and a lot of the really good fishermen on this lake really struggled to even catch 5. So it is what it is. On to the next one. Not sure when my next tournament will be. We're fishing Mosquito Lake in a couple weeks for a team tournament, so be sure to wait around for that tournament. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you later.